Sean says talking torn biceps this morning. Ain't that the truth? Andre Dillard. Poor Andre Dillard, right? Poor Andre. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second. Uh, get this share going right here. And then we'll be good to go. Yo, yo, what's up, man? What's up, everybody? Almost there. Hear my music and let that music play for a couple seconds, and then we'll start rolling. Talking torn biceps this morning. That is so true, Sean. As soon as I look at that, I say it. You guys hear a little beat? It's my little Halloween music beat. Little Michael Myers for all you Halloween fans out there. One of my favorite horror flicks of all time. My boy Nick Paz took care of that for me. Gave me a little sound for the little Jigsaw's Judgment, which I thoroughly enjoy. I really like the beat, so hope you like it too. But listen, we're here. Tony Cutillo at T Cutillo 23, PhillyInfluencer.com, Fox Sports The Game, or the Heat Ratio. Listen, I was talking about this all day the other day, and I hate that it happened. Right, unfortunately, the injury bug hits first for the Philadelphia Eagles, and we're talking Andre Dillard, which there was so many question marks coming in this year about Andre Dillard already. This definitely doesn't help for his future, especially when we're talking about a torn biceps. I mean, listen, this isn't Brandon Brooks. Brandon Brooks was able to come back. He was like a warrior, right? He was able to come back immediately. He's already ahead of his rehab right now for his Achilles. So, this isn't that same guy. He doesn't have the same mentality. And I hope for his sake that he can get past the obstacles that he was already dealing with mentally, and he's able to come back from this kind of injury. But thank God for Jason Peters. Thank God for the body card. And, I got into conversations yesterday, and for those of you who follow me on Twitter, no, and Mike is one of my co-hosts, and I love dearly. And the best thing about having difference of opinions, especially within your own network, on your own show, it shows that everybody's not it's stagnant. Everybody's not the same, right? It's a good debate point, and then we can pound at the end of the day and say, go have a beer, right? But he feels the one way, I feel the other way. I was a big Jason Peters guy. I talked Jason Peters up all offseason before the July re-signing. I felt like he should have been the left tackle already. Listen, Andre Dillard showed me absolutely nothing last year, especially from a first-round pick. Andre Dillard was not getting talked up when it comes from the coaches or the offensive line coaches. He was not getting talked up by the players. The only time Andre Dillard got talked up by the players was when Brandon Brooks got hurt. Then all of a sudden, we heard all the talk about Andre Dillard looking really good. He's come to play this year. He's understanding the offensive line calls. He's understanding the cadence. He's ready to roll. His footwork, his handwork, everything. Listen, Jeff Stoutland is the best offensive line coach, right? In my opinion. But here's the thing. Andre Dillard had a lot of issues that people forget about. There was issues with Andre Dillard mentally last year where he was breaking down in training camp, breaking down in practices because he could not grasp the playbook because he could not stop from being bull rushed and pushed all over the field. That's why he gained 15 pounds in the offseason, because he was afraid of being pushed around. But guess what? I hate to break the news to you people. He was getting the same reviews in camp before he got hurt. He was not having a good camp. He was not having a good offseason. So maybe, just maybe, that's why you turn to a guy like Jason Peters. And this is a Hall of Fame left tackle. This isn't any ordinary left tackle, okay? And everybody was mad, okay, because they didn't want to pay him the money. But here's what I seen from Jason Peters, and hear me out. Last year, what I seen from Jason Peters was a veteran leader who was going to take a rookie player under his wing and stay after practice with him, right? He stayed after practice. He stayed in the bubble. And what I mean by bubble is the NovaCare complex, right? And you watched the footage. You've seen it. He was working on him on his own. That's what Jason Peters brings. Without Jason Peters, who is Andre Dillard going to learn from the left tackle position? Who is he going to learn from? So that is the intangible that Jason Peters brings, along with the fact that he was willing to move the right guard. And people, for all the people out there that said, oh, he never played guard, he can't. Jason Peters is one of the most athletic offensive linemen you will ever see in football. Okay, Jason Kelsey is one of the best, but Jason Peters, 330 pounds. Okay, there's a reason why he was a basketball player, people. Facts, read them. Read the history. There's a reason why he was a tight end, okay? Because he could move. This guy was a freak of nature, right? A complete freak of nature. And you got him on his team. For my money, probably, besides the Herschel Walker trade, probably the best trade in Philadelphia Eagles history, okay? You could talk about T.O., and I love T.O., and that trade was great. Okay, but at the end of the day, it only lasts for a couple years. Andre makes a tremendous point again. This is what I've been saying. Peters is an O-line coach on the field. He is basically a player's coach. That's what he is. That's basically what he is. He's a coach on the field. And you can't just get that anywhere. You know, there are teams out in the NFL that would die to have something like that. And I know all the people are going to come out and say, oh, well, why wasn't he signed? Nobody wanted him. No. Listen, maybe nobody wanted him on $10 million, right? But at the end of the day, he was always going to be welcome back to the Philadelphia Eagles, even if it wasn't for $10 million, whether it be $8 million, whether it be $5 million, whether it be $3 million, doesn't matter. It's an intangible that you need to have on this team. And now it is going to pay huge dividends. Listen, I wasn't hoping that Andre Dillard got hurt. And again, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it again. I felt as though Jason Peters felt he was going to sign to be the starter at left tackle. And that's fine with me, because do we not remember what happened to Carson Wentz against Seattle? Do we not remember what has happened to Carson Wentz over the last few years? Do you really want a guy who's a mental midget right now, a guy who has not shown the ability to play, to be holding the blind side for your franchise quarterback? Hell no. Until that guy shows me he can grow into the player we drafted him to be, I don't want him out there getting my guy killed. And that's the problem. That's the issue I had. My issue was you re-sign Jason Peters, you bring him in, you let them battle it out in camp, and Jason Peters would probably win the job anyway, and he was going to win the job if they were battling, right? If you didn't have the injury to Brandon Brooks. And at the end of the day, now you feel safe. And you know what you do? You feel safe. Why? On the practice field? Why? In the bubble? Guess who's working with Andre Dillard? Jason Peters. Guess who's learning from one of the best ever at the left tackle position? Andre Dillard. Okay, that is the intangible that you get from Jason Peters. So I am so ecstatic that Jason Peters is here. I've always been a huge Jason Peters guy. Always been. Always loved Jason Peters. What's up, Sean? Sean Jackson. What scares me is there's no left tackle. Because, see, Sean, I disagree with that. And that's another theory. And I understand. Listen, we get it, right? You watch the game. It's like, oh, there's Peters going to the sideline. What's wrong with Jason? But he played 14 games at 37 years old. And I know that I know everybody's going to say, well, how many did he finish, right? How did he finish? Listen, How many players do you know at 38 years old are going to play every single snap? How many? But my point is, if I can get 75 to 80% of the snaps from Jason Peters, that's only 20% that I have to feel unhealthy about and uncomfortable about when I'm talking about the blind side of my franchise quarterback. So I'll take that any day of the week. I'll take it any day of the week. I really would. Sean, he's not too old, man. Sean, I disagree. He is not too old. Certain guy. Look, listen. And I'm not a LeBron. Look at LeBron James. LeBron James is 37 years old. Is he too old to play basketball? No. He's a freak of nature, right? He's a freak of nature. And the reason why he works his body, right? He works his craft. Obviously, there's two people in this world that are always undefeated, and that's Father Time and Mother Nature. I've said it before. And Father Time will always catch you. I get it. I completely understand. But at the end of the day, if he could give me, I know it's a different game. I get it. Football is an absolutely different game. But we're talking about a left tackle. We're not talking about a running back. We're not talking about a wide receiver. We're not talking about a quarterback. He's not getting drilled every play. Jason Peters isn't getting drilled every play too. And Sean, I challenge you this because I know you watch film and I know you watch gameplay, right? If you have the NFL Game Pass or if you can go on YouTube, I want you to go back and watch some of them games. And I want you to tell me how many times Jason Peters got beat. And I can guarantee you this. It was damn near less than 20% of all the snaps that he played last year. And I'll tell you what, I'm pretty certain he only gave up 5 sacks. And I'm pretty certain in the last 3 years, he's only given up 7 sacks at the left tackle position. So I am telling you right now, if you take those stats and you look at the left tackles around the NFL, whether they're 25 or 35 or 38, that's damn good. And that's somebody that I want on my team. And that's somebody I want out there. That's my issue. I completely agree with you that he is older, right? I get it. Oh, but only short spurts. You know what? I don't think it's the short. See, I think that is so way overplayed. Really, I do. I think the short spurts and the penalties are way overdone. If you go back and look at the offsides penalties, the false starts that Jason Peters has over here, count them up. It's probably less than 20. It's just because it seems like whenever you put the game on and there's a certain situation, there's a false start on Jason Peters. Oh, there he is. There he getting another penalty, right? But if you go within the game and look, my thing is, Sean, let me ask you this. In all seriousness, what you've seen from Andre Dillard and the fragile nature of Carson Wentz, who would you be more comfortable at the left tackle position right now if both are healthy? Andre Dillard or Jason Peters? Because that's what I'm asking. Because for me, it's Jason Peters. It is. Until Andre Dillard can come out and say that he's ready. And that's my point. How many times, we've seen this in the past, right? We've seen this. When Lane Johnson became the right tackle of this team, was there any question that he was a player? And was there any question? And I know he comes from the lineage of a program in Oklahoma or Alabama, right? I get it, Oklahoma. I get all that. I completely understand. Dillard can't handle a bull rush. You know what, Sean? I'll be honest with you. I would say 50% of the time. 50% of the time. And again, I still think that's more than what Andre Dillard gives you. But I want to listen, but I want to put Dillard in the bags there. Yo, man, this ain't 97.5. Come on, Sean. Nah, I'm just kidding. But listen, I completely understand. I know that the one thing that sucks is that now you're talking about a rookie that you spent a high draft pick on, right? A first rounder moved up to get him. And you really don't know what you have. That's the biggest issue. You don't know what you have because you had a first year that was not very good. You have a second year that he's not going to play. You're going to have a third year that the excuse is going to be, listen, he's not over the injury yet. He has to work his way back. So now you're going fourth year. So now you're talking about rookie option. Now you're talking about what do you do, right? Obviously, Jason Peters isn't going to last forever. So that just means that the Eagles are going to be looking for a left tackle when it comes to the draft once again. And that's my issue. They haven't drafted right in a very long time. And this is what's going on. Listen, if you draft right, you don't have to sign Jason Peters. Let's be honest. Say what you want. If Andre Dillard came in from day one and balled out, nobody is talking about Jason Peters. Nobody. Okay? Nobody. And that's the thing. Remember when Winston Justice played that game? He was a human damn turnstile. I mean, against the Giants, they absolutely, Osi Umenyiora absolutely destroyed us. Right? We've seen it. We've seen King Dunlop in the past get manhandled in the offensive line. Right. So my issue is, if we would have drafted right and we would have done right, we wouldn't be in this situation. But now we are. And the best thing we could do, I don't want to see, I heard people talking about, we'll let Matt Prot. No, man, listen, we'll still let Jason Peters play guard. No, Jason Peters needs to be your left tackle this year now. Simple as that. You got one more year now of Jason Peters and Lane Johnson. You just have to hope that Jason Peters can play a healthy game for all 16 or 17, which I think that he can. And here's the other thing. Let's put this in perspective, that this is going to be a different year because of expanded rosters and things of that nature, where, you can give Jason Peters a blow, right? You can give Jason Peters he doesn't have to play every single snap. There are ways around it. So I'm sure that they are going to parlay that into their game plan. I'm absolutely certain that's going to be part of it. But again, when we talk about Andre Dillard, I'm just not sold. And I'm not sold because I haven't heard anything. If you have a rookie on your team, and maybe, forgive me if I'm mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure you people will agree that when, I keep going back to the guys like Lane Johnson, keep going back to, and I know we didn't draft John Runyon. He was probably the best free agent signing, of the Eagles, of the Andy Reid tenure, because that was his first piece, right? Because you win within the trenches. But if you go back and you look at guys like Trey Thomas, when they started, all you heard in camp was, wow, this guy's a beast. Wow, this guy, man, thank God we have Lane over there. Thank God, Trey. That's what you heard. How many times you say, man, thank God for Andre. Thank God Andre's there. Man, did you see Andre make that play? No, it was called, man, is that Andre getting knocked down again? Man, is that Andre over there with his helmet off, shedding some tears? Is that Andre over there getting manhandled once again? That's what we heard. Okay, that's what we heard. So that's all we have to go on. And that's why I feel Jason Peters was the guy. I still feel he's the guy right now, even at 38 years old. The Eagles have a lot of decisions to make. They really do. And one thing that Jason Peters is, he's a hell of a run blocker. Okay, he really is. He's a pass protector, but he's a hell of a run blocker. And if Miles Sanders is going to be the guy, which I thoroughly, enjoy watching him take off this year and show why he's just as good as Saquon Barkley, if not better. Yeah, I said it, if not better, because Miles has 2 years less on the tread, and he's a guy that works his ass off every single day, and he has a little chip on his shoulder, and he wants to be that guy, and I respect the hell out of it, and I can't wait to see him. And fantasy football players, beware. Miles Sanders will be a top 5 running back this year. You mark it down. I'm telling you that. Absolutely. But, that's for Fox Sports to Gamble. That's for my Fantasy Fix. That's a little insight. Fantasy Firebox on the heat ratio. But to get back to the Eagles, there's some news today. Alshon Jeffrey front. Is Alshon Jeffrey going to get off the pup? Is Alshon Jeffrey going to be able to play? We shall see. Sounds like Jalen Reagor has turned in a very fine, different style of training camp right now. It sounds like Greg Ward is catching everything thrown to him. I talked about the Zach Ertz situation. I don't want to talk about that again today. I still don't think we'll pay Zach Ertz. If you want to talk about Zach Ertz, go on a YouTube page, go watch the video from yesterday. I explained why I would not pay Zach. Just my opinion. We all have them. As long as you can listen, as long as you can back them up, everything's fair game, right? But this all relies on Carson Wentz. Right? We know about it. And the one thing about Carson Wentz, the one thing about this Andre Dillard injury, the one thing about Jason Peters, the biggest advocate and the biggest the biggest reason why this offensive line will be successful will be Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz has to learn how to get rid of the ball quicker. Carson Wentz has to learn how to not take hits. He has to learn how to feel protection. One thing I think Carson Wentz is very weak at is feeling the pressure. I feel like he never feels the blindside pressure. Some quarterbacks have it, some quarterbacks don't. I think Brett Favre was one of those guys. He sensed it all the time, always did. He always felt it. You always see him step up in the pocket. Who feels it a lot too? Another underrated quarterback is Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford feels, and why not? He plays Detroit. He's been running for his life for the last 10 years. So, of course, he's got to feel it. He probably trained himself to feel it. But this is going to be Carson. Carson Wentz is going to be the guy who this success is predicated on. It's as simple as that, people. It's as simple as that. And if Carson Wentz could be the guy we all know he should be, we're going to be okay. Okay, we really are going to be okay, and this injury is going to be no big deal. But Jason Peters definitely does need to stay healthy. That's 100%. So I seen somebody comment yesterday. I think it was my buddy Phil Stiefel from All About the Birds. He mentioned about Jordan Mailata. I know from the Heat Ratio, Coach Dave Dixon. I know that's one of his guys. He was very intrigued by Mailata. But if Jordan Mailata could have played, I think he would have been on the field. But the problem was he's a seventh round. He's a seventh-round pick. He's a project. He's tremendous in size. He's tremendous in athleticism, but that doesn't translate to moving your feet and your hands when it talks about the left tackle position. So it's going to be interesting to see if this isn't Jason Peters. Do they go out? Maybe they go out and sign somebody. We'll see if there's any cuts. We'll see if there's anybody to pick up. But again, with the expanded rosters and the small training camp, this is going to be a really weird year where you're not really going to be able to go out and pluck anybody off somebody's team. You're not going to be able to go out and pluck off somebody's roster. There's not going to be a lot of guys dropped. There will be cuts, obviously, but basically it's going to be a depth signing. I don't think it'll be anybody that is extremely productive. Okay. Last thing I want to say is, I'm dropping an interview today. I had the pleasure of interviewing Karita Parks. Karita Parks is one of the All About the Birds. What's up, guys? Yo, just shot the boys out. All About the Birds. Check them out. Talking all Eagles. I'll tell you what, and again, we do a lot of share work with All About the Birds. Phil Stiefel is a part of the Heat Ratio Sports Clan. He does some tremendous things. Johnny and Jeff, the whole threesome over there. Do yourself a favor. Go give them a follow, because I'll tell you what, I'm a big video guy. Right. And I'll tell you, every single day you go on, and whether it's a Brian Westbrook, a Lito Shepherd, a Eric Allen, Sheldon Brown, Chad Lewis, Rodney Pete, Randall Cunningham, they show you the highlights. They show you the stuff. I don't know. They come up with them in the archives, which are tremendous. So give them a follow. Go check them out. You'll be thoroughly enjoyed every week by seeing their content. And they're all about the Birds. Listen, they're a full-out Eagles podcast. Here on the Heat Ratio, we talk about 4 for 4 plus more. We go national. I'm going to start doing some. Listen, for all you music buffs out there, I am a huge, you're listening, I am a huge hip-hop fan. I have been a hip hop fan since 1987. I go back. I love the 90s. I love 90s hip hop. I don't think it gets recognized enough. I think it's a completely different genre than the hip hop that we see right now. I'm a huge music guy. Whether you talk about 80s hair bands, whether you talk about 90s alternative, whether we talk about country, I talk it all. I want to grab some music insight. Again, Brandon Morrell. I do a show every day. Won't be there today because of some schooling, but do a show every day. Sports Mike, the Sports Mike show at and Brandon Morrell at Backstage Pass. Check it out. He interviews some tremendous country music stars and legends, so it's pretty cool. But yeah, we'll talk about music too. But get back to the sports. I was interviewing Karita Parks, who is a journalist in Washington. She covers the Washington football team. And the last thing I want to say is I want to give a shout out to Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera, for my money, is one of the most respected coaches in the NFL. Obviously, he is a part of that Andy Reid tree. He is a part of the Chicago Bears tree, and I was a huge Chicago Bears fan growing up. And I'm not afraid to say it. That's who I gravitated towards. I gravitated towards the Jim McMahon years with Mike Dicken, Richard Dent, and Willie Gault, right? Mark Carrier and Neil. Yeah, listen, that's why I gravitate. The Fridge, those guys were synonymous on my football knowledge. Okay, that's who I grew up on. So Karita talked to me about the Washington football team. I won't say the name, but it was cool to see her insight on what she thought about the Birds and what she thought about the NFC East, because the NFC East is changing, boys. Let me tell you that the NFC East is changing for the better. I thoroughly believe that. One thing I've always said, and for people that follow me will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say I was a big guy who said when everybody was worried about, who's better, whether it be LeBron, who, is it Michael, is it Kobe, right? When we were talking about basketball. And what I said was, I was blessed to be able to watch in every single one of these superstars in their prime. You see the guys in the background right there, Jordan, Kobe, AI, right? You look at my wall, you got Tiger Woods up there. You got Barry Sanders, Barry Bonds, Mike Schmidt, Roy Halladay. Okay, these are the guys that I feel blessed. Chase Utley, Jimmy Rollins, that I was blessed to be able to watch in their prime. Not all of us get that opportunity. So that's one of the things I pride myself on. And when we talk about the NFC East, I think it's going to be tremendous. I do. I think it's going to be tremendous because I think that, with the changing of the guard, when you talk about Mike McCarthy, you talk about Joe Judge, you talk about Ron Rivera, and you talk about Doug Peterson, it's going to be highly competitive. It really is. And Doug Peterson, you better be ready, buddy, because you're not coaching against Jason Garrett anymore. You're not coaching against Jay Gruden. We got some horses out there in the NFC. So I think my boy Doug will be up for the challenge, but he's going to need a lot of help. Okay, he's going to need a lot of help, but I think he'll be there. And the other thing I want to say is, prayers to Ron Rivera going through this cancer treatments and, chemotherapy sucks, man. Absolutely sucks. Great guy for the game. Thank God. Self-checked, found it, called it early. Looks like he's going to be okay. But again, man, it just shows you in life, anything can change. So again, I'll say this again. I said it yesterday. People, do me a favor. I love sports. We love talking. I love debates. I love unique opinions. I appreciate all the followers, but just do me a favor. When you go on Twitter, when you go on Facebook, when you go on Instagram, think before you speak. I'll say it again. Think before you speak. Educate yourself before you open your mouth, because there's a lot of uneducated opinions out there, and I'm all about opinions, but do me a favor. Think before you speak. Realize what you're saying. Try to understand. And the last thing I'm going to say is, if you don't see a problem, then you are part of the problem. And that's the last thing I'm going to say. That's the way I feel. That's coming from the heart. So again, Tony Cutillo, Jigsaw's judgment for today. This is the weekend, but NBA resumes. So I'm probably going to go live again tonight. Maybe we'll recap some games. Let me know what you guys want to talk about. If you guys ever want to talk about something different than I'm talking about, hit me up, man. I'm ready. I'm always ready. Again, follow the ticker on the bottom at PhillyInfluencers.com, at Fox Sports The Gambler, and at Heat Ratio Sports. And check the contest out again at Fox PHL Gambler, giving away till September 7th a free pair of brand new Joel Embiid ones, courtesy of Under Armour. You just have to follow the station, retweet the status, and give us a picture of an old ticket stub of an old basketball game, and give us a little story behind it too. In less than a minute, or less than about 100 words, or 220 or 208, whatever the character count is on Twitter nowadays. I'm not good enough to get the double, so I'm still at 200, but that's okay. All right, everybody have a great day. Enjoy your Friday. Beautiful day out. Looks going to be a washout this weekend. God bless everybody out in Hurricane Laura's path. I hope everybody's okay and everybody's safe, and they can get through that major disaster out there and rebuild their lives and get back to some kind of normalcy. And hopefully we all can too. So again, for Tony Cutillo, stay safe, stay healthy, and everybody have a great day.